Welcome to the Pizza Marketplace podcast. I'm Mandy Detwiler, editor of Pizza Marketplace, and I'm here today with Tory Williams, general manager of Bright Penny Brewing Company in Mebane, North Carolina. Did I say that right?
You said it close enough. We get a lot of people calling it Mebane, but it's Mebane.
Mebane, gotcha. Well, first tell us the origin story of the pizzeria. How did it get its start?
So we have three owners, a husband and wife, and then another gentleman. The wife and Christina and Jason worked together for a long time, and it was just kind of an idea that they had just in friendly conversation, and it just kind of snowballed from there. Jason is a veteran, so that's where the name comes from. Is Bright Penny was back in World War I. They would drop a penny into beer that they were making in the like in war zones in the fields, and if the penny came out shiny or bright, it meant there was enough alcohol that it was safe to drink.
Okay,
so,
interesting. And
we've come a long way from how they made beer, obviously, but it's just a cool idea.
And you just have the one location, or do you have more?
So we have three locations. They all function a little differently. Our main location is downtown Mebane, where we do all our manufacturing, and then the main pizza establishment is here. We also have a location in the Tanger Outlets, also in Mebane, which we do, same beer. We just don't produce it there. And then we do a little bit different menu. And then we have another one in Rocky Mount, which is mostly tap room, bar, bourbon, some small snacks and things like that.
Okay. What's going to be your top sellers on your menu?
For food or beer?
For food.
For food, so definitely the pizzas are by far our big sellers. The top ones are kind of your standard cheese, pepperoni. We have one called Family Friendly, which has pepperoni, a local sausage, and mozzarella. And then from there, it kind of gets more into the variations of pizzas. Our 412 is like a barbecue, chicken, bacon, jalapeno, some local hot honey. And then our sweet and salty's a close fourth or fifth with prosciutto and sliced figs, goat cheese, arugula, and some balsamic glaze.
That sounds fantastic.
They're very good. It's a Neapolitan style. We cook them in a rotating Mariforni oven. It's about 2.5 minutes, and we got a pizza ready to go.
That's awesome. That's fast.
It's pretty quick. We gotta keep up with the high demand here, so we gotta move through pretty quickly.
What are you making in-house? Are you making your dough, your sauce, you're slicing your cheeses? What are you doing?
We make our dough. We make our sauce. We typically buy in a lot of shredded cheese, but we do slice our provolone and a few other Swiss cheese as well. And we do some sandwiches, so we kind of cross-utilize some ingredients there. We try to do as much as we possibly can in-house within reason. Our cooking equipment, our main piece is that pizza oven. We don't have a hood that expands outside of that oven, so it kind of limits us on what we actually can, cook to order and that kind of thing. So we do as much as we can. I think on a side note, one of our other biggest sellers is our deviled eggs.
Wow.
So those are something that we really try to do to, cook every day and peel and, they say cut and gut them. But about a week into that concept, we realized that was a terrible idea. So that's one of those things that we kind of use as a little bit easier item by getting them pillow packed. But we have 10 different kinds of deviled eggs.
Oh, wow.
And we typically have one on special every month as well. So.
Now, why do so much in-house when, outsourcing is just so much easier?
Easier is not always the best way to go. There's a time and a place for convenience items. but yeah, we really try to keep as much as we can fresh as possible. Um, like I said, you got to weigh the pros and cons of the time that it takes to produce these items and the quality of which these prepped items are.
Okay.
We find more consistency in us being able to do it exactly how we want it done. And it's a lot easier to just tailor things to our needs rather than buying a pre-made product.
What sets Bright Penny apart from other pizzerias in the area?
The easy answer is we're a brewery.
Right.
There's a big calling for breweries. There's a big draw for that. So that in itself really just makes things pretty easy to get people out here and try our pizza. But like I said, the deviled eggs is another big draw. That we're in the South, so that's what people are really one of those items that people really love.
What percentage of your sales? I'm sorry, go ahead.
And the only other thing is our atmosphere and our outdoor space. That was, one of the biggest things that got us through COVID was having our pretty expansive outdoor space. We just finished up some more construction and put some roof coverings out there and a secondary building in our beer garden for another service area where we're going to do these massive stuffed pretzels and
nice
things like that. So the outdoor space has been a huge draw for people.
What steps does Bright Penny take to provide an exceptional dining experience for your customers?
One of the biggest things is obviously staff training. We want people to be very familiar with the beer, very familiar with the food, to obviously make recommendations as best we can. And then the ease of service. So people are able to come up to us and order at the bar. We have kind of a line system there. They're able to go to a table and order from the QR code, start a tab, do whatever they need to from the table. So if they don't want to have that interaction, they can. And again, adding the service areas outside so they're not having to walk as far.
Tell us about your beer production. Now, why beer?
Well, the owners were definitely big craft beer people. Jason has been over 800, 900 breweries in his, wow, handful of years that he's been traveling around. So craft beer is definitely one of those niche things that everyone is really into right now. And then, obviously you supplement that with good food. You can't really go wrong.
What beers are going to be your most popular?
County Line is definitely our most popular one. It's just a light lager. It's kind of our play on a domestic beer. Middle Finger to Monday is West Coast IPA. People buy it for the name and then they really enjoy it. Mebane Skyline is a really good one. It's a blood orange wheat beer, kind of a play on a Blue Moon, but obviously a little bit better, at least to us. And then Pub Ale, it's a ESB. Those are probably our top four. And our Island Time Seltzer, it's a pineapple mango.
Now, what beers pair well with your pizza? What's going to be your top sellers that pair well with a pizza?
So the family friendly, that one obviously kind of goes pretty well with anything. I would say the sweet and salty goes pretty well with like an Island Time. The little sweetness kind of balances well with the figs. The blood orange wheat goes pretty well with our 412. The orange kind of mild makes the jalapeno a little bit more mild.
Okay.
And then Middle Finger goes with pretty much all of them.
Okay. Now, do people come in just to drink the beer, the beer component versus the pizza component, the dine-in? for pizza. Tell me a little bit about that.
I would say starting out, our concept was really was more beer focused than it was food focused. And then when I came on board, my background is more food focused than it is beer production. So we kind of shifted our mindset a little bit to balance the two and not necessarily make one stand out more than the other. So now I would say people came for the beer and stayed for the food, but I think we have a good balance of both.
Okay.
People come here for beer and realize that our food is good and, everything looks nice and they decide to stay for it, or vice versa.
What percentage of your sales is pizza based?
I would say probably 70% of our sales is pizza.
Okay. And do you
have a good portion of the remaining is the deviled eggs, and then everything else is kind of just sprinkled in there.
Now, do you have liquor as well, or is it just beer and wine?
We do. We've had liquor for a little over a year now. That was a law that we had to wait for the NCABC to pass. If you manufactured, you are not allowed to serve liquor. And as soon as that passed, we jumped on that bandwagon. I'm a bourbon fan, so I definitely wanted to get some of that in there. But we have essentially a full bar, a small cocktail menu. We do hard seltzer slushies, which are really good sellers. And then, like I said, it's a handful of cocktails.
What's been the biggest challenge for the brand, and how have you overcome that?
I think the hardest thing for us is really getting word out. A big thing for breweries is distribution, and that's kind of how you market. And the return is not necessarily there on doing that. You obviously make more selling it over your own bar. So we've really taken a look at our marketing plan and really dove into that a little bit further and been a little bit more strategic on where we're placing our money and how we're really trying to reach the people at least in our 25-mile radius. And then strategically placing different locations. Tanger was right in the middle of COVID when we opened. People may not think it's a great idea to open two locations in one town, but Tanger is a different demographic.
Right.
It's a marketing plan within itself because it's a lot of transient people that are coming in off the highway. So we're able to push them down to this location. And then our Rocky Mount location, it's on the way to the beach. It's a pretty good central location and kind of a hub in that area. So we get a lot of off the highway traffic that are coming to check us out. And then that's about an hour and a half door to door. And we still get people from the Rocky Mount location that come back this way to us. So.
Okay. Now tell me about your marketing plan. Where are you putting your marketing dollars? Is it social media? Is it television, radio? Where are you putting your money?
We do put some money into doing ads on social media. It's not a ton. Our focus is really, we have our social media followers, so we're trying to reach those people who are just maybe not looking into that or not finding us there. We recently added highway signage, which is reaching over 100,000 a day. We've already seen the return on that. We are looking at billboards, which is it's a pretty steep cost, but you are reaching a significant amount of people in the time that it's on the highway. We started looking into some of the local coupon type books, like it's called Talk of the Town for here. Again, that reaches tens of thousands of homes. So we don't typically put a coupon in there. It's more of just like putting our name out there, letting them know where we're at, and giving them the information to contact us for orders. I've never been a huge coupon person giving that out. If people are looking for a product, they're going to come find us.
How do you foster? I'm sorry, go ahead.
I think those are the biggest things that we're doing right now.
Okay. How do you foster a positive working environment for your staff? Tell me a little bit about your staff training.
As far as working at a brewery, it's pretty laid back. I feel like restaurants are a different breed. They're a little bit higher stress. This feels like more of a laid back atmosphere. As far as our training, we have a few days onboarding for our front of house staff, and then it's continuous training with our beer menu. That forever changes. New beers are coming out, old beers are falling off. So we always try and entice them to obviously try the beer, talk about it, and make suggestions to our customers, and kind of give them the bullet points and talking key points on those items. And same thing with the food. We do a pizza of the month every month, so that changes up. And same with the eggs. We do an egg of the month. So we try to just educate them on the new items that are out there. And then we try to do monthly meetings, but it doesn't always work out that way. So it's typically every few months that we all get together and talk about things that each of them are seeing as far as sticking points or issues that we're having on service nights, and items that we can improve upon, or items that we're doing really well, and really try to involve them in the process of fixing things, or highlighting obviously the things that we're doing well. The biggest thing for us is really team involvement. We don't want the managers to be like, this is what we're doing and this is just how it's going to be. We really want them to be involved in the process. And I think that's got a lot of buy-in for us. And we try to really push, obviously, customer service. That's the biggest thing, being customer facing, with the internet nowadays and reviews and things like that. You really have to be customer focused.
Sure. Now, what about recruitment and retention? Has that been a problem?
I would say for the front of house, no. It's been pretty easy getting front of house staff in and retaining them. They do pretty well here. The back of house has been a little bit of a struggle, and that's been kind of an ongoing issue for us. We're starting to see it turn a little bit. We've evaluated our pay scales and started looking at benefit options for the staff. And then when I say benefits, I don't necessarily mean medical or 401ks or anything like that. More so recognition for a good job, like, if they've done a great job for the week and attendance has been really good, maybe we offer them a paid day off or something along those lines. We've talked about doing some essential culinary competitions between two cooks. They develop a pizza. We run it for the weekend. Whoever sells the most wins some sort of prize. We offer staff a free meal every day, 50% off of all takeout food or all takeout beer. So we try to give them some small benefits like that just to recognize them. I think that goes a long way.
What tech products are you using to help Bright Penny's operations?
We use Toast POS. We've kind of bought into Toast pretty hard. So we started with just the POS once we switched away from Square. Clover, we switched away from. We added in their marketing tool. We are exploring their Extra Chef. We've used it once, and we're kind of circling it back around to it, which helps with recipe costing, adjusting pricing based on, the items that you're purchasing. And then helps with inventory and all sorts of stuff. So we use those two things. We've started using MailChimp for newsletters, which has been pretty helpful in reaching about 10,000 people a month.
Great.
And that's pretty much it on a daily basis for what we're using. And then obviously all the social media platforms.
Sure. Having done this for many years, what advice would you give to a fledgling operator just coming into pizza?
Focus on your numbers. If we're talking about the business side of things, it's really pay attention to your cost. Your two biggest expenses are going to be your labor, and next is your food cost. And you really need to ensure that your recipes are costed correctly, and you need to ensure that the recipes are being followed. It's one thing to price everything out for 4 ounces of cheese, and you're actually putting 12 ounces on there. It doesn't really make much sense. And then evaluating your staff, your labor. Do you really need 5 people? Can you get away with 4 and still have the same production capabilities? On another note is, I was told once that you need to work on your business, not necessarily in your business. I 100% advocate for supporting your staff and jumping in when you need to, but you also need to be able to step back and really find the solution, not necessarily be the solution. Jumping on the line is not always the answer. Finding out why you need to is more beneficial in the long term.
All right. Well, we are out of time. Thanks so much for being with us today.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
That'll do it for this episode of the Pizza Marketplace podcast, and we'll catch you next time.